Hello, my name is Lee. I go by Buckme Barnes here on YouTube and various other social media sites. Today I'm here to talk about not comparing yourself to other artists, as well as some of the process that I've used in this piece, and also that ta-da, this is the first voiceover I'm doing, so expect it to be rough and a little not as professional as I'm sure you're probably used to with other like actual YouTubers. This is just me having fun and seeing a way to kind of show my friends and whatnot a little bit into my process and maybe help somebody out along the way, because I'm all for sharing knowledge. So with this piece, right off the bat, you can see I'm struggling with eyes. I'm using a reference, and references oftentimes sometimes don't really physically translate when you're doing art. But with this piece, I kind of cheated and I pulled the reference right over onto the painting, and I actually drew those little circles, as you can see, and that helped me figure out the placement, and then I was able to go from there and actually do my own eyes in my own style. And as a novice, that helps me immensely. I've only been drawing consistently for about 2 years now. I drew intermittently in undergrad, but I had like a Tim Burton style, so this is very different. This is also the first time I ever used warp, which, as you can see now, I'm moving around the eyebrows and whatnot, which preserved their shape, but could change the facial expression without completely making me need to restart, which it was actually a nice tidbit. But the person you're seeing on the right, she's the one who said to do that, and that actually was a game changer, so I'm definitely going to remember that in the future. Other than that, excuse me, I am getting a little sick, but with this piece, I did something very different that I've never actually done before. Usually when I'm doing art, it's either like I'm drawing fan art, and obviously I have these artists that I admire in my fandom, and I'm always really scared that I'm not going to live up to them, even though it's not a competition. But, you know, as an artist, it's very hard not to think of it as a competition. You get really stuck on how many notes you're getting on Tumblr, how many people are telling you, oh, your art's so great, and so you can fall into a bit of a slump comparing yourself to other artists. So in this one, other than using references, and obviously finding out that not all references are good, but some help you get a general idea, like with Chris's hair there, I basically just used the floof of the bang, and then after that I just ran wild with my own idea. But what I did was I actually started to compare myself to previous art pieces that I have done because they are mine. And it was more of a way to compare myself structurally to see what I'm strong at, to see what I'm weak at, to see what I'm actually improving on this painting, as opposed to previous pieces that I've done. I guess I should call this a piece. I don't really understand. You know, it's all digital and I cel shade, but whatever. With this piece, I definitely learned a lot with faces on portraits. You'll see here, these lips, eventually I'll actually change because another artist friend of mine helped me out to kind of give me the, you know, tip of when you have lips with an extended line, keep the lines at like the same area. But here what I was trying to do was a perspective kind of thing. I was trying to like lift the lip on the other side, but in my style it ended up not working, whereas I've seen it done by some, but for me it just wasn't working. So I eventually will just cel shade the lips in and with the Cupid's bow, and it actually turns out really nicely. I have, you know, everybody has inspiration, and I definitely have a artist that I really admire that I've taken a little bit of like kind of like some of the concepts that she does, but I've like applied it to my own style, which is definitely kind of a mix between like semi-realistic and comic. Some of the, like, my proportions are a little exaggerated, like my eyes are big. I love noses, so I'm always gonna have nice big prominent noses on people when I can. But like I wasn't actively trying to copy someone. I was trying to, in my own head, I was thinking, yeah, this is the kind of stuff I like about this specific artist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I was, you know, comparing myself to that artist. What I was doing is every time I struggled, and eventually you'll see me pull up references and of artwork, and they are my own art, which was really nice to help me not ever feel defeated or like I wasn't good enough. And also just because we're coming up on it shortly, unfortunately my computer just randomly decided to stop recording, and so you'll see we'll jump ahead where I've laid down some color, some shading. I did the eyes. And I'll take the time to explain basically what I did in that time hop, because I think we're about to switch over like pretty much right now. Ta-da. So here you'll notice with the eyes, I put some blue shading in, but I really wanted to make him kind of look bloodshot and hungry. So like I gave him on a low opacity and a low flow with the red at the sides of the eyes. His eyes are green right now, but I eventually will change them to blue and put like a nice fog over them. Here I'm just kind of like, I'm just having fun. I don't really use brushes in terms of like fancy types. I usually just keep to the Photoshop round brush, which is what I use for all of my cell shading. And then I'll just put multiply on my shading layers, and I'll usually take a more saturated version of the base color. Sometimes with color theory, because I've been starting to get really comfortable with kind of like playing with colors, what I'll do is I'll take, if I've got a cool tone, like how he's a cool tone, I would put a warm tone, like a red or something warm, as the shade on the multiply layer, and I think that really does help give it a little bit extra in terms of dimension. Also, I fell into gradients recently, and I've been just playing with gradients and having fun with the different types of colors that a gradient can achieve. On him, he's got a violet gradient on his hair. He's got a green coming that's kind of giving him like this light source, but also could be his skin. It really is kind of almost up to whoever's, looking at it. I think gradients as a novice or a beginner is really good to help out with kind of when you're not so comfortable with shading, or you don't want to get into really heavy detailed shading. I personally don't like big painted detailed, not for myself. For others it's beautiful, but for me, I'm much more comfortable with a cell shade, a cell shade, and a gradient, and I think it achieves what I want, and that's really the most important part, is achieving what you want. And that's why I think it was really beneficial for me to start looking at my previous pieces and seeing the stuff that I did well, and then I was able to actually take those assets and put them onto this piece, especially with like the hair shading. Like I looked at a piece earlier you saw, basically it was just a naked blonde dude, and I had really awesome shading on his hair, and there were like blocks of shade that I was able to translate onto this piece, or how the jawbone is shaded, or the cheekbone is shaded. There's just stuff that I was inspired by my own self. And I think that was really cool because it kind of laid off the stress, and I was able to just enjoy making this beautiful, in my opinion, beautiful zombie. And it was a fun experience just to, instead of having that fear of, oh, is this going to be as good as so-and-so on Tumblr, or is this going to be as good as, so-and-so on Twitter or whatever. It was more of, is this better than the last piece I did? And I kind of lived in a bubble as I was creating this. I used 3 different brushes, which I can do my best to link to. I gotta find them. One was a speckling brush, and then the round brush, which everybody has if you have Photoshop, and then I had a square brush. But that was really it. Usually I just use one brush and call it a day. So honestly, at the end of the day, I think I learned a lot about myself in terms of, don't compare. It's hard not to compare, but the journey when I was doing this, it was beneficial just to look at myself and just stay in this like nice little bubble, because it made the experience so much more enjoyable to really push myself and just see just me as an artist, not everybody else. It helped narrow my focus, and I got to draw a pretty cute little zombie, and I'm overall pleased with the piece, and I'm really happy with it. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you check out some of my later videos. Bye!